They say you've got to pick magic find or damage. I say, why not both? In today's video, I will be showcasing my magic find Multishot Bowazon. She's sub 2.5 minute chaos runs. She clears all vanilla content with ease. She also clears maps fairly easily. She's at 11k multi-shot damage, and here's the kicker. She's got 600 magic find. The best part, you can do it too. We will be talking gear, stats, skill point distribution, key items to make this work, and then finalize with some gameplay. There's plenty to get through, so without further need for an introduction, let's get into it. Your magic find multi-shot Bowazon guide. See you after the intro. Now, to start with, I'm going to talk about some of the key pieces of gear that really help to boost your damage without hindering your magic find at all. I will also list these in the order of importance. Number 1 is strong Buriza crossbow. Now, I'm not here to tell you that Buriza's better than Windforce, although it is. I'm just kidding. Really, go with whatever you prefer. But what Buriza does offer and why it's really good for this build is it has a lot of high damage potential without costing too much. It has 100% pierce on it, meaning you do not have to skill or find pierce on any other piece of equipment, meaning you can stack magic find. And finally, it's super easy to hit the highest IAS breakpoint without having to concern yourself with IAS on other parts of your gear. The second most important item is getting fanaticism on your merc. You have two options for this. These are Faith Bow on an Act 1 merc, which I personally prefer. If you do get this, you should be getting Templars to give you another damage boost without, having to sacrifice magic find. And if not, you can also use Beast on an Act 5 merc and look at getting plus all skills on the rest of his gear to boost his Might Aura. These auras give you free damage without having to sacrifice slots of your gear, where you can therefore stack magic find. It's perfect for magic finding when you outsource your auras and your damage boosts onto your mercenary. I personally have tried both the Beast route and also the Faith route. I personally prefer the Faith route simply because I love Vigor. Especially when you're doing vanilla content, it makes everything so much smoother, so much faster, and you're usually one-hitting everything anyway. The third most important part of this build is looking to get some extra damage on your swap weapons. What I mean by this is using your weapon swap to buff your damage. Now, the route that I go down is CTA with Lidless. The Battle Command boosts your physical damage. Of course, the extra skill is useful as well. And additionally, you can use Battle Cry to break most Fizz immunes in vanilla and mapping content, with the exception of a few, in which case you should just guided arrow them down. If you don't have CTA or can't afford it, I would recommend getting a Demon Limb Tyrant Club just for that extra enchant damage. Every little helps if you can get your damage from elsewhere so you can stack magic find on your gear. Either way, the third most important thing to recap is to get some damage from your swap weapon. The fourth most key item for this build, although is not necessary, I just really like it, is using Wisp Projector. Now, Wisp Projector obviously has some inherent magic find to it, which is welcome, but most importantly, it has Heart of the Wolverine, which is another super nice damage buff without sacrificing too much magic find. There are no other rings that beat this in terms of flat damage it can give you, and the kicker is that it gives you magic find, so if you can afford one, do get hold of one. Also, don't forget to cast this with your switch weapons so that you get extra skills from CTA and from Lidless when casting your Heart of the Wolverine for the maximum damage output. Now, those are the main key items covered in this build and the primary source of damage, although there are also charms, which I'll get into in a moment. But to finish off the rest of my build, I'll go through my gear. Basically, I'm looking to stack as much magic find as possible throughout the rest of my gear. So for my helmet, I have a Shaco, 2 Socketed, 2 Perfect Topaz. For my armor, I'm running Skulders with 3 Perfect Topazes. For my belt, I'm running Gold Wrap, Corrupt with Magic Find. For my gloves, I have some chances. Now they are corrupt with lifesteal. I would recommend trying to get a lifesteal corrupt somewhere in this build. It's super useful. For my rings, you already know of Wisp Projector. The other one is a Nagel corrupted with extra magic find. For my boots, I am running War Travelers corrupt with cannot be frozen. If you cannot get cannot be frozen somewhere else in your gear, you should opt therefore for a Ravenfrost. And for my amulet, I just use my standard running amulet, Saracen's Chance, that I corrupted with 1 to all skills. But of course, I could stack more magic find there too. Now, naturally, with your charms, you want to have an Anilus and a Torch. They just help with your resistances a little. I then personally prefer to focus on magic find with the small charms, and then damage and survivability with my grand charms. So I have a few all resistances grand charms, and the rest of them looking for damage and stats where possible. But of course, this is viable without all of this, just every little helps. Now, just to finish it off, the rest of my mercs gear, we have an Andy's Face. The 2 to all skills is nice. The IAS helps. The 2 to all skills obviously boosts the Vigor aura, makes you run a bit faster. We are running a Laying of Hands corrupt with Magic Find. We have a Nos Coil corrupt with Max All Res. And we're running Marrow Walk because cannot be frozen on your merc is a must-have too. With stat point distribution, my personal preference with this build, and I've had no issues, is Glass Cannon. So what that means is enough strength for your gear and the rest of your points into dexterity. I find that I have enough survivability with a few charms to boost my resistances and Annie and a torch that I don't need anything extra in vitality, which means I can maximize my damage output. Now with the skill point distribution, I personally like to max Valkyrie. I really find them useful tanks just to spawn in the crowd if you get into trouble or otherwise, but it's actually not necessary. I just find you have a lot of remaining points with this build, so why not? Maxing Evade gives you plenty of move speed to make your runs faster, and of course maxing Critical Strike is important to maximize your damage output. You do not need Pierce in this build because you get full Pierce from your Bariza, and you also do not need Penetrate because you will be hitting monsters easily when you have Heart of the Wolverine Fanaticism up to boost your attack rating. Then with the bow and crossbow skill tree, you want to max multi-shot, and then it's up to you if you go guided arrow or magic arrow. My personal preference is magic arrow because it increases your magic conversion scaling on guided arrow, which you then use to kill Physimmunes that can't be broken. And also the damage scaling on guided arrow isn't too impressive, and so it's down to preference, with my preference towards magic arrow. And that's pretty much it. If you replicate this build, you will also be doing 11k multi-shot damage, you'll have 600 magic find, and you will find you can clear vanilla content and maps with ease. Now, to prove how easy it is, I'm going to leave you with some footage of chaos runs and maps. And guys, don't forget to hit the like button, I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments if you're going to give this build a try, or if you have any questions or comments on maybe how I can improve that. I'm more than happy to hear from you. So enjoy the footage. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a wonderful day. Redstagg out. GG.